What's Happening Dracut is sponsored by BGI Group, LLC.
Good morning, Dracut. It's Saturday, May 11th, 2024. I was doing something else on my phone.
All of that was correct.
Here we go. It's 2024, and this is What's Happening, Dracut. It's our 66th episode. Welcome to our overly ostentatious studios here on Mill Street in Dracut, Massachusetts at DATV. We are excited to have this show on again today. We have a lot to talk about over the last week. Since last Saturday's election. We're going to give you an update on all the little foibles that went on during the week and some of the stuff that happened on Saturday. We're going to talk about the election. We're going to talk about the upcoming warrants. But I'm your host, John Zimini, and we're happy to be here with you this morning. And we wanted to let you know that if you want to join in on our little discussion here today, you're welcome to do so. We're live on Facebook as well as live streaming at dracuttv.org. And as usual, our usual cast of characters are here in the house today. We have the Teflon Don of DATV, Dracut Access Television, Gordy Scott. How are you, Gordy?
Good. I'm nice and relaxed after a nice 5-6 day vacation. So.
Yeah, you went down to Arizona for a few days.
I did. It
and
was really
while
nice.
we were down here toiling and trudging through
you guys were in the
an election.
50-degree weather. I was in the mid-80s.
Nice. And we were here, trying to get people to vote and do the right thing.
I did vote.
You did.
Before
you
we
voted
left,
in advance.
Before we left,
That's right.
we voted.
That's one good thing to vote. Walk in.
Absentee.
You voted absentee, which is even better.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. We're going to talk about that. But before we get into that, we have our resident architect here, the guy who's the most knowledgeable person on zoning issues here in Dracut. But he can't get on a board. But maybe things are going to change. Here's Phil Thibault.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
How are you?
Wonderful.
Are you excited about the change?
You know, there's a lot of things to absorb and take into account. But yeah, I mean, much like today being a beautiful day, it is now sunny again in Dracut.
I know. So Gordy, tell the folks how they can watch if they miss an episode. They can always go back to YouTube. Go ahead and tell them.
Yeah, so you can always go back and watch dracuttv.org. Go to shows and click our What's Happening Dracut. You can see our episodes there. Or if you have a smart TV and you want to watch it on YouTube, go to our YouTube channel and like us on YouTube. Become a fan and follow us, and you can get it on What's Happening Dracut. Just search that in YouTube and you'll find us. And we usually post episodes a couple days after airing because it takes a couple days for the guys here to load them up. And then you can watch. You can go back and watch our first episode if you like.
Hey guys, we're over 3,600 followers now. Can you imagine that?
Wow.
Not all of those followers like us.
Right.
But they have to follow us.
They have to follow us, and that's important because we get the word out, right? So yeah, we're over 3,600 as of shortly after the election. So we've been.
It's about the average voting.
Yeah, right.
Number of voters.
It is. It is about the average voters, and I'm curious to see how many new voters actually come on and watch our show. At some point, we're going to try to get a poll going for that. But that's something in the future. We also would love to welcome once again, our sponsor, BGI Group, who happens to be the new selectman in town, Josh Taylor. But that doesn't mean, Josh, that we're going to be nice to you all the time. So trust me, there'll be a time when we disagree. And that's okay because, as we say, good things come out of good debate, right, Phil?
Absolutely.
So it's exciting to see that he's going to be on that board, and he's sponsoring our show. So again, if you'd like to join in a conversation here, make sure you give us a call. And as soon as the Chiron comes up, 978 957-4243. You can join in and call, and we'll be happy to put you on the air and get your questions. And even if you just have a comment you want to make, we're happy to do that. Also, we'll be taking some of the stuff that you post on Facebook.
Yeah,
Phil.
we'll be keeping an eye on it.
Do we have anybody on there right now?
We have over a dozen people.
Oh, that's great! Isn't that great? That's a good thing.
Yeah,
So
post a comment and we'll try to get it on.
I was watching Rudy Giuliani on the other night, and he's a world-renowned, figure. Obviously, not everybody agrees with him, but he goes on Facebook Live. He only had like about 10 or 12, and I was one of them watching him. So we're right up there with them, right? Isn't that good? So anyways, we're going to go right ahead and move on to the weather report with our resident weatherman, Sean Kelly of Mill City Weather. Take it away, Sean.
Hi everyone, thanks for having me on. Here's the forecast for tonight. Showers around as we have low temperatures in the low 40s tonight. Winds are going to be coming out of the north at 5 to 10 miles an hour. Then as we head into your Sunday, Mother's Day, rain likely, especially for the second part of the day with cloudy conditions starting off the day. High temps near 60 degrees. Winds not too bad at 5 to 10 miles an hour. Then as we head into Sunday night, temps back down into the 40s, mid-40s with cloudy conditions. Not expecting any rain for Sunday night at least. Here's a look at your exclusive 8-day forecast. Monday, high of 66 degrees, and then as we head to Tuesday, rain likely with that warm air moving through. High temps in the upper 70s. And then as we head into the second part of the week, mostly sunny for Thursday going into Friday. And that's the forecast for now. Back to you guys in the studio.
Hey, thank you, Sean. That's our resident weatherman, great guy. And last night he posted a couple of pictures with the northern lights. Did you get to see that, Phil?
I did not see them myself, but I saw some of the pictures. They look fabulous.
I wish I had actually gone out into the hot tub at that time, but I wasn't sure what time of the evening.
Yeah,
I could
one
see
of the so it was after 11 o'clock, and a big problem being near a city is that the light pollution. It kind of spills over, and it's oftentimes very difficult to see the northern lights.
But there were several people that posted it. Did you see any of those pictures?
Yeah, I did. And Angel, one of our big fans, posted from the end of our street. And you could see the lights.
Wow, Angel, you should send those pictures along to us, and we'll put them on our page. Yep. That's awesome, Angel.
Yep.
That's good. So we've got a couple of things to get into, but before we do that, what do we got for upcoming events? Today we have a couple things going on.
Today we have a family fun day at Beaverbrook Farms.
And that's what, from 9 to 12?
That's going until
1?
It might be 1.
Okay.
Might be 1.
Maybe we'll take a shot down there
Yeah.
after we finish here.
Yeah, I believe Toxic Waste Day or something at the DPW is happening, but that only goes until I think noontime. So
Okay.
if you want to make that, you better hurry.
Yeah, has the Garden Club got something
Garden
going on?
Club has something going on also.
They're at Harmony Hall?
At Harmony Hall.
That's good. And they usually do in their early planting seedlings or whatever
Yep.
they give you. You can go down there and purchase.
And I believe it was the Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts had a flower sale.
Oh yeah,
down the street.
Yeah.
down,
Like
down at our favorite Town Hall West.
Yes.
So stop by and give the Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts, whoever they
Boy-
are.
that was
I don't-
Boy Scouts.
I don't even know if it's what,
Boy Scouts.
Boy
I think
Scouts?
Troop 80.
but it's not called Boy Scouts anymore. Phil.
Well, I guess they're calling it
Scouts.
just the Scouts now or
Bay
something.
Scouts.
I don't know.
they Scouts, them
Yeah,
Scouts.
them Scouts.
I guess they changed their name to America Scouting or something like
Yeah,
that.
something like that.
It's
be more
this
inclusive.
woke stuff is just beyond belief, right?
But Girl Scouts don't have to change their name.
No, of course not. Of course not. So we also have a school committee meeting coming up, right? Is it this week?
That would be
Monday. And the Board of Selectmen meet on Tuesday. And we also have, so we give you plenty of advance notice, put it on your calendar because this is going to be a very important town meeting on June 3rd. And there's a lot of stuff we're going to go over today with some of the warrant issues as we go forward. But Phil, we have a condolence we need to.
Yes, we do. A longtime resident, of course. He was also on a number of boards. Planning Board was one. Sewer Commission is another. But Phil Green passed away this week, and certainly our condolences to the Green family.
So let's just dive right into this stuff about Dracut and the elections. We are, ladies and gentlemen, entering in a whole new era of Dracut politics here. For the first time in over 20 years, the power seat has changed, right? At least it appears to change. And less power will be concentrated on the good old boys, and maybe there'll be more of a level playing field. What do you think about that, Gordy?
Yeah, and I say congratulations to the town of Dracut for making the right selection in Josh, and I wish Josh the best. I think he's going to do a great job. As we said on the show prior to the election, this was probably the most critical or most important election that we've had in probably since I've lived in Dracut. So I'm excited to see what will change in town, and see it's going to be exciting to see things that are going to happen in town.
You're
Put
right.
it that way.
So, Phil, when they start talking about, or we're talking about anyways, I posted it on our pregame, our promo show earlier this week, how the revenge of Joe DeRocco is finally gone.
Oh, we certainly hope so.
You think so? But will he go away, or will he be like me and you and just
no,
stick around?
I firmly believe he just walks away. He's taken his ball, and which to some degree I suppose gets into how much he really was involved in the community.
Right.
Because I think he just walks away from everything.
Well, he was involved in the community, but on the wrong end, right? And some of the stuff that he did, and he perpetuated along with his buddies.
But was he in the community, or was he working the community for his friends?
Oh, that's a good point. Working the community for his friends was a very good line, because that's what it appeared to be as we exposed so much of that stuff that was going on, and we hope that some of that will change. Now, look, we understand that they may not have broken any laws by doing it, but by taking care of their chosen few, it shuts everybody else out of the process. And we expose how many tax dollars were spent in favored businesses as well as favored members of the community who have contracts and things of that nature.
And it kind of telegraphs throughout the rest of the community. So, you have the perception that, okay, if it's only a select few, then you have the general public who doesn't want to participate anymore because, well, what difference does it make? I think this election shows that it can make quite a difference because, I mean, the turnout was very high.
Yes, it was it was 4,122, I believe it was, which we're going to get into those numbers in a few minutes. But Gordy, with this whole revenge thing that the other side was trying to say, because for 20 years, anytime a candidate ran against one of their candidates, they would say, oh, they just want the power, they want the power. Yeah, we want to share the power. And then we know that Josh Taylor will not be a puppet for anyone. Now, it might look like he's different because he was elected because he's different, right?
Right.
So don't tell us that he's on a revenge tour when he tries to clean up the mess that's been created for 20 years, right?
Right.
So what say you? What do you think they're gonna say? They're gonna constantly say he's part of now.
I think the people that write for papers and have their own shows here at DATV will continue to say we attack people's families, we attack, their loved ones. We've never done that, so it's a constant lie that they send against us on the show. Now we'll say something about the selectmen themselves or the select women, but we don't attack. I've never been on the show where we've attacked someone's family member.
No,
that's just ridiculous.
No,
and they say that, and then on the other hand, they post stuff in the paper that attacks,
my
you
children,
and Phil,
my wife, and things like that.
Yeah.
Phil and I, we get attacked all the time, but
that's okay. That seems to be okay.
That's okay because they're doing it.
Yeah.
And their number one attack dog, who came rushing after me during. By the way, we have that video I think today, right? Can we show that video on our Facebook page? That where I showed up to hold signs for Josh, and immediately Allison Janesh yells across the street to me. I think I sent you the picture too. Do you want to take a picture of us for your Facebook page? And being the accommodating guy that I am, I acquiesced and said, sure. And they ended up posing they posed for a minute. They posed the picture. I don't know if you got that handy. Yeah, keep scrolling down here, Phil. Gordy. Go down a little more. We have a picture where they posed. They actually posed for us, and I posted it, which is what we wanted to do, right? Which they wanted me to do. But anyways, after that, this is what, okay, we'll show this stuff here. Here we go. Bring it up. This is him. This is Brian Jeunesse charging across the street after they had posed it. You can go, and there's the picture that they actually posed for. Imagine that. What a pair, those two. And there he is. Isn't he beautiful?
In your face.
Mr. Toxicity himself. Come right across. I was kind of hoping that he'd hit me with the sign, but I don't know if he's that stupid to do that. But this is the kind of thing they did, and then they tried to turn it around on us. But our good friend Jack, right?
Yes.
What did he end up doing?
Yeah, he wrote a letter, essentially outlining what he had saw, and it pretty much it gave evidence that what you had put out was correct.
I did nothing to incite them, only that I breathe. You know, I exist, so I incite them. So I understand he had a little bit of a piece in his what is it, the poison pen?
Oh, in the
Poison
Valley,
pen
he
piece.
writes for the Valley Patriot.
Which you do too, right?
And I do too, and I've been writing for almost a year and a half now. Can you
Imagine
believe
that? Time flies.
Wow.
So you counter the toxicity of that guy.
I think I show a side of Dracut that is real, rather than this slanted view that Mr. Jeunesse gives. But I think he's a lazy writer, and I'll just say it. I think he's a lazy writer.
A lazy writer?
A lazy writer.
Yeah.
Because whenever he writes, it seems like there's always 2 or 3 of the same paragraphs that he's written previously, where he mentions me, the proven loser, blah 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 blah.
Yep.
This time, he essentially opened up with a couple of his own sentences, open quotation marks, Joe's entire soliloquy for his goodbye at the selectmen meeting, close quotations, a couple more sentences, and that was the article.
I have a question for you. Do you think Joe knows the meaning of soliloquy? I mean, really?
No, I don't.
Really? I mean, the legacy of Joe DeRocco and that whole crew, Jeunesse and Kopczynski, who have been the power seat of Dracut for many years now, their legacy is a $10 million deficit that we're facing down the line here, right, Gordy?
Yep.
And now, what the new Board of Selectmen has to do is they have to start digging in to find out a solution and point the management of the town in the right direction for a solution, because if they don't, they become part of the problem. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, 3-2. I mean, Heather and Tony Archinsky have been sitting on the sidelines, and we know that they are now excited that it's going to be a
And
new day.
Allison, just a year ago, said that the town was in great financial shape.
Yeah, only 22 days later, the
Yeah.
roof caved in.
Right.
They started talking about an immediate deficit and a deficit for the next 2 or 3 years. So let's get into the numbers a little bit about the election here, right? So the election, there are so many elements to the election, Phil. Why don't you tell the folks a little bit about some of the things that a voter can do?
So a voter could, the traditional absentee ballot, you go to the clerk's office and notify them that you're going to be out of town, and you need to get an absentee ballot. They mail it to you, you fill it out, and you bring it back, or you mail it in. Mm-hmm. But there's also mail-in ballot. So if you want to do essentially the same thing as absentee ballot, you request it from the town clerk, they send you the ballot, you fill it out, you mail it back.
Or you can drop it off in
Or
the
you
drop
can
box,
drop it off at
right?
the drop
So
box.
that's my problem. This is one of the problems that we have with these mail-in ballots. There's so many things that can go wrong with it, and I can understand why guys like Donald Trump is opposed to it, but you have to embrace it, right? And I think that any election going forward here in Dracut has to try to embrace that mail-in ballot things, because we're doing more research on it. We're going to try to find out who actually did mail-in ballots and find out if there was a concerted effort by the Martin people, because I think there was. Because there was over 1,200 mail-in ballots. I don't have the exact numbers, and we're working on getting the exact numbers because there were so many numbers being thrown around, right?
Yeah, so that's almost a third of the votes.
Yeah, 1,200.
It seems high.
That reminds me of the days when candidates used to do absentee ballots, right? And they'd go to a nursing home where people are there, they're residents, and you would ask them to get an absentee ballot, or somebody would go in for an absentee ballot, and then you'd go to the nursing home, and God forbid, because we're all heading in that direction at some point, I hope. I don't want to be in a nursing home. I hope I'm never going to be there. But if you're there, your daughter comes in with the notary public years ago. Used to be a notary. You had to notarize the ballot. They go in and they would say to Ma, "Hey Ma, you like you like Josh Taylor?" "No, I want to vote for that other guy, Plummer." No, Ma. Remember Josh Taylor? He came to visit you. "Oh yeah, I want to vote for Josh Taylor." That's what they would do years ago. And I'm not saying that's what we did, because the Taylor, I don't think the Taylor campaign had any of that going on. Do you?
No.
I don't think they did anything to do with mail-ins. But I think that's the new area to be wary of and watch, because there's a lot of stuff that can go on with that. What do you say about that, Phil?
Absolutely. We have a message from Rich Cowan. He said, FYI, over 1,200 prior to April 28th, another 1,000 between April 29th and May 3rd.
Now, Rich, I wish you had come on the show today and you could have given us some of these things. Maybe we can get you on at a later date to go over some of these numbers, because Rich is one of the guys in town that's pretty good on the numbers.
So that would be more than half of the votes were mail-in.
Right. And then on election night, and Rich will vouch for this, there was so much confusion going on, and it really wasn't too confusing if you knew what you knew what the whole process was. So when the polls close at 8 o'clock, each precinct captain or warden then runs what's called pretty much like a grocery tape, and it gives out the numbers that are taken in the machines. Now, those numbers in the machines consist of people who walk in, consist of people who had voted prior by mail-in.
Early
voting separate. That's another number. But the mail-in ballots were then placed in during the day, during the election. Am I correct in that?
I believe so.
Okay. So those numbers now get put into the early voting, and we're trying to get to the exact number of how many people actually voted on election day, which the number is going to be a lot smaller than people would think because of all the other opportunities to be able to vote. And go ahead.
I suppose some of the indications would be accurate, because as we're watching traffic coming in, like at the school complex, it didn't seem very heavy.
No, it was
but
very
the
low.
voting numbers are very heavy.
Yeah. So when those numbers come in, they don't have all of the numbers in it. And each campaign has surrogates down at the precincts getting a picture of these results and sending them to the campaigns. And so the campaigns start tabulating it all together and what have you, and they figure out where everything is going. So that initial drop had Josh Taylor winning 8 out of 10 precincts. Lo and behold, that didn't even count for the rejected ballots. You know what a rejected ballot is?
Yeah, they didn't fill in the circle quite right, or they might have put an X through it, or it didn't tally in the machine when it got fed through.
Right, it could have been a corner of the ballot was
folded
or whatever. So those inside that machine, there's 2 bins, one bin for counted, and the rejected bin, which goes on a side, and those numbers have to be hand counted after the voting is closed. And those numbers are usually counted right there at the precincts, right? And then that number is sent up to the town hall where Janie Boysonout would be now tabulating all those other numbers. But the interesting thing is, and Rich Cowan can chime in if he wants on this, and if you want, Rich, call in. But the bottom line is that some of those numbers started coming in, and the lead of 280 some odd votes for Josh Taylor on that initial drop started to shrink, and it shrunk down to about 30. And we're at the campaign parties, and we're all saying, whoa, what the heck is going on here? So, and there were a lot of rumors going around and things like that. So a group went up to town hall to try to figure out what was going on. And Janie, who is a pretty, I believe, is a pretty honest person. I don't think she's somebody that to be, dishonest.
Right. I find her very straightforward. And honest.
Right. But, it's the problem with people that are around town hall that make you scared, right? So to make you a little bit nervous about what's going on with the numbers back there. So anyways, they start tabulating, or they start placing in on the spreadsheets the numbers that were previously counted during the week in an open session, open to the public. I wish it was a little bit more transparent on when those sessions happened, right, Phil? They walk in.
Yeah, I mean, I believe they were initially posted on the calendar, on the website calendar, and then they were later canceled. They were actually listed as being canceled. So,
So
I'm not sure.
when did they count them? Yeah.
Rich Cowan just posted, he said the clerk said that the precinct returns included mail-ins and early votes cast between April 29th and May 3rd.
That sounds right, and but Rich will agree the confusion led everybody to think that what was going on here. It's kind of like the national elections where you're getting these vote counts coming in, but when everything else, when they start calling who's winning and who's not winning, you get these other ballots coming in and these other votes coming in, and it causes a lot of concern for
I
voters.
I think we're at the point now. I think we need to do online voting, and if a person doesn't have a computer, they can go to a voting booth like we have now, right? And someone can assist them or whatever with a computer, all computerized, because that way I think there is less room for error, let's say, and a lot of people are against online voting, but I mean, the people that I know that are against online voting also have an online bank account, and they don't seem to have a problem banking online. You look at sports betting. Sports betting's all online, and there's a lot of money changing hands, and that's all online. So I think it's time. And I mean, back in the day before we had online banking, everyone was against online banking because someone's going to hack into my account and steal all my money. That's not going to happen if you set up the system correctly. And I know there are some companies out there that have local elections online now, and they're testing it out. I think it's time to move that to that.
What do you think about that, Phil?
It's certainly an interesting concept. As Gordy said, most people bank by mail. A lot of tax returns are submitted by electronically. So I mean, there's all the information a hacker needs. Yeah. Your social security number, your address. I mean, it has everything you need. So I mean, if that's secure, then it's...
The other thing is you can always log back into your account and see how you voted. So if something changed, you could say, hey, I didn't vote that way or whatever. So it's a self-auditing process that way as well.
All right, so we have a caller. Hello, who are we talking to?
Hey, John, this is Rich.
Hey, Rich, I can hardly hear you. If Matt can turn up the volume a little bit.
The problem is that my cell phone isn't working at the moment. I have to reboot it. I'm calling you on a landline. So.
Yeah, that's a little bit better.
Can you hear okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, I have to run to the garden sale in a minute because my wife is there and I wanted to pick up some plants and stuff. But the thing I wanted to add was that when they do this is according to the town clerk, when they do the counts in advance, the advanced processing, they only did it on Sunday. And
that was the week prior, am I right?
Yeah. So they finished feeding in all these ballots in public. I wasn't there. I think one of the school committee members was there, but I haven't heard of anybody else reporting on what happened. But at the end of that process, they do not run the tape. It stays locked up in the vault, and they don't run it until after the returns are all in and after the voting stops on election day.
So those were the numbers that they wouldn't post until 8 o'clock that night, and they posted those at Town Hall.
Yes.
Right. So, that started to make some changes in the whole thing. It closed the gap a little bit more. But can you tell us a little bit about, from what you know, about the master tally sheets? And we got a picture of that. We could put that up on a screen right now, Matt, if you mind. We have a picture of that, and that has the master tally sheets and hand counts. I'm assuming those were the rejected ballots or anything that was delivered by mail on the day of election. Am I right?
Yeah, I don't know much about the origin of that. I've seen the document you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's a giant spreadsheet where they are putting in individual hash marks whenever they count a vote for an individual candidate. And the number of votes that were in that tally sheet was only 29.
Right. Except this said 54 here. Comes up to about 54.
Well, it might be 54 all in all, but the number of votes that were valid for the Board of Selectmen race was 29.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So, like, let's say that a bunch of people voted for two people. Maybe they voted for Don Plummer and they voted for Dave Martin. That doesn't count because you have to vote for one person. If you vote for two, your ballot gets thrown away.
The ballot gets thrown out, right. Exactly.
Or not the whole ballot, but just your votes for school committee still count, but your votes for Board of Selectmen won't. Here's the problem I have with this. There's no video of this when they're feeding this in. So the question I would have is that as the people are feeding the ballots into the machine, are they feeding them in face down or face up? Because if they're feeding them in face up, it's pretty easy to see how the vote is going. And that information, once somebody knows something like that, it's a hard secret to keep. So I'd like to see them give the public more confidence in the process when they do this advanced processing in the future by maybe filming it or at least publishing what the safeguards are that they do in order to make sure they're not going to tip off one or both candidates about what's going on.
Right. I think the transparency should be increased, and it's again, Rich. It's not that we don't trust anybody at the clerk's office, or we think there's any kind of shenanigans going on in that. There's other ways of creating shenanigans, but that's a great idea of having having that process, that early count process, videotaped, and maybe they need to just be more diligent in telling candidates, listen, we're going to count ballots on this day. Do you want a surrogate? Do you want a representative there? And that would even help eliminate some of that. I want to thank you for calling in, Rich. You want to add anything else?
I only have limited time to get down to town hall, but thank you very much for taking my call.
Thank you for calling in, Rich. We'll talk to you soon.
Not town hall, but Harmony Hall.
Harmony Hall. Yeah, you got to go down there. All right.
Harmony Hall Garden Sale until noon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Rich was one of the people that was at town hall that night, and he just happened to walk in just to get numbers, but he didn't know what the confusion was going on at the parties, So we got all this confusion done and out of the way, and it finally got down to the vote was 23 votes, victory for Josh Taylor, which was quite amazing because, as you know, Phil, having been a candidate that has run against a machine that has pretty much knows how to win. Maybe not the right way, but they know how to win. So it was amazing that we pulled this off, or that Josh pulled this off, right? And there was always a speculation that Martin could call for a recount. Well, as a candidate, what would you think if you were the candidate that lost by 23 votes? What would you do?
I think concede. I mean, these days, a recount isn't going to come up with 24 changes.
No.
I don't think.
Not with this given the
If it was
electronics.
3, different story.
If you're probably less than 10, then I would say, you owe it to everybody that supported you to ask for that recount.
Yeah. But in all fairness, remember, when you call for a recount, the taxpayer pays for it.
Right.
And that could be about 20 grand.
Oh, easily.
Which is half of a teacher salary or half of a DPW salary, and you got to really take into consideration what is it going to cost you to hire an attorney. I mean, good election attorneys are not going to be cheap. You're talking
No.
20 grand just to get in the door, right?
Yeah, and I would also say, the consideration that there was actually 3 candidates, so it wasn't just a race between Josh
Right.
Taylor and Dave Martin. There was also John Plummer. So
Right.
you can clearly say that the majority of the people in town did not want Dave Martin.
That's right. That's for sure. And I think, we got to hand it to Don Plummer. Don Plummer did a good job, first time out of the box, not very well known in town, supported by Warren Shaw, and certainly supported by George Meliaris, and I believe his wife was his campaign manager. At least that's what I had heard. Had you heard that?
Yes, yes.
So, he did a good job of getting his name out, and in the future it brings only to light the possibility that he could run again. What do you think?
Yep, I think he will, and I think he'll do well.
Yeah. So what happens?
I thought he did an excellent job of getting his message out.
Yes, he
about,
did.
How town hall is, the administration is being run, how the economics are in town. I think Don had a very good handle on the whole concept of what was going on.
Plus, he wasn't afraid to say it like it was. And Josh Taylor wasn't afraid to say it like it was. The whole thing of Martin patting the back of the administration and we're going in the right direction, facing a $10 million budget deficit, just baffled my mind. How can you do that with a straight face? You know what I mean? And I think you're right, Phil, that most people voted against that group and Dave Martin. They didn't want him.
So, there was certainly a significant vote for change. So, out of the 4,200 votes, 2,300 were for change.
Right. Now, what did you think about the fact that the fire department has to be very relieved that Dave Martin didn't get in for a number of reasons, and mostly because we know that if he's anything like his mentor, who he said was his mentor, Joe DeRocco, if he's anything like him, you knew there was going to be revenge placed upon the fire department because they didn't endorse him.
Yeah, who knows? I've known Dave for quite a while. I find him to be a great guy on a personal level. I've worked professionally with him. Great guy, great craftsman. Mm-hmm. I would hope that he would not have followed his mentor in that regard.
Yeah, he tried to separate himself at some point, but you can't separate yourself after you're telling people that this is your mentor.
Well, you're right. Your mentor, and essentially things are going great in Dracut, and we should keep going in the same direction.
Now, I found it very interesting as a side note that Colleen Gary's party was the next day for her re-election campaign.
Yeah. So yes,
At the loci?
Typically, and she's done this for a number of years. Her election is always the day after the election,
Right.
or the Sunday after the election.
Right. So I would have went to that party, but I was wiped out, right? And I decided I didn't really remember it, to be honest with you. But the bottom line was Dave Martin didn't go, and she endorsed Dave Martin.
endorsed him.
What do you think about that?
That's surprising to me.
That's surprising.
That's not surprising.
Not surprising.
Well, that's why I'd like John Zimini to run for water moderator again, see if there's any person that would run against you.
Oh yeah, that would happen. You know that. That would happen.
Right? Like,
But yeah, that we really smoked them out on.
are
that
you
one.
doing it for the right reason? That's the question.
Right, right. Hey, Trevor Currier, our good friend, made a couple comments. Why don't you jump in and tell us what he said?
So Trevor-
Trevor's a good kid, by the way. Strong.
He said if you
Republican.
can't take the time out of your day to go to the polls or request a ballot, do people deserve to vote anyway?
Right, that's true.
And if there's a write-in or the ballot gets rejected, it gets separated. Once it gets separated, then they take that ballot and go down the sheet and mark off if they voted for each position.
Right, and that's what you saw in our tally sheet that we just had up a few minutes ago.
And our good friend George Drisilaris
Yeah.
commented that that Sunday was Greek Easter, Orthodox.
Oh,
Orthodox
yes,
Easter,
that's right.
which
Greek Easter.
I'm sure may have riled some of the Greek population in Dracut.
Oh, yeah.
I would have to admit, I would see that as being a little tone deaf.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that wasn't a good thing either, given the fact that.
At that point, right, you just postpone it a week.
Yeah. It's one of those things. Right? So thank you for commenting, Trevor and George. Thanks so much. So some of the stuff that we know went on over the last week or so was back and forth about whether or not Dave was going to, concede, first of all. He never did. I don't think he ever did. He posted something on his website or on his Facebook page. Do you have that? Do you know? Relative to thanking the voters, but he didn't say whether or not, never congratulated the winner. Where conversely, Don Plummer did.
Yeah. I mean, wished whoever won best of luck in their service to the town.
Do you think Dave runs again?
Well, I have to admit, we've talked previously when I've run.
Yep.
When he's come into my office and he said, "I don't know why you run, Phil."
Yeah.
It's just the whole process of running, and he said he would never run.
And then he ran.
And then I was kind of surprised when he announced.
Well, I wasn't surprised because I knew in the back of the mind that they were pushing him all the time.
I don't know if he would run again.
Yeah.
I think he's trying to build his business, and it's just another layer of headaches, if you want, when you're trying to run a business. And well, Josh certainly knows now.
So we have it. We'll bring this up, and I think he posted a short video about thanking the people. Let's. I don't know if you can find that. Did they take it down?
Yeah, I might have taken it down.
Well, we had it, and it doesn't appear to be. Oh, it's right there. It was there.
This
I think.
is it?
Right? Let's see.
This one? That's his vote. Ask him for
No,
votes.
there's another one where he said.
Oh, here it is.
Here it
Yeah.
is. Okay, let's show this. Bring this up. Here we go. There's no sound. For him, it was fortunate for us that he did. But that was an interesting thing. You posted all the stuff confirming what we had been saying right along, how he was the chosen one. You had both of the selectmen that were with him, Joe DeRocco, who's the former now selectman, thank God, and all of the reasons why people voted against him, right? So we're going to move on from that now, folks, because that era is gone. And here we have Matt, you have the video of Josh being sworn in. Why don't we show that right now?
Yeah. You know what, Josh, I'm going to
Yeah.
stand here and you stand right here. All right. That sound good to you? Does that sound good to you? Oh boy.
All right,
Oh boy, ready?
I am.
You ready? You can raise your right hand for me, sir, and repeat after me. I I, Joshua M. Taylor,
I, Joshua M. Taylor,
having been elected
having been elected
to the Board of Selectmen
to the Board of Selectmen
for the town of Dracut,
for the town of Dracut,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
to uphold the Constitution
to uphold the Constitution
of the United States,
of the United States,
the Constitution
the Constitution
and the laws
and the laws
of the Commonwealth of
of
Massachusetts,
the Commonwealth of Massachusetts,
and the bylaws
and the bylaws
of the town of
of
Dracut.
the town of Dracut.
I will faithfully
I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of Selectmen
of Selectmen
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Get up there and take some pictures with them. Go ahead. Janie, do you mind taking some pictures with the family too?
Absolutely not. I was just signing this right here. No, I mean, I absolutely don't mind. I mean,
We're still exhausted.
because we know how words can, right? That's gonna come out right. There you go.
problem.
There you go, ready?
Yep. Okay. All right, here we go.
Congratulations, guys.
Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you, everybody.
So there you have it, folks. The new selectman. What you see is what you get. But yet Brian Genest was all over that guy and making comments and saying things about how he dresses and everything else. He's just a regular guy who wants
to
do
make a
good
difference, yeah.
and wants to do good for the town. So right away they got to try to shame him by telling him, is he going to buy a new suit? I mean, some of the talk down at
I like that he doesn't wear that stuff.
See?
Yeah.
yeah, and most people in Dracut, a farming community, know that he's a down-to-earth guy, Phil, right?
Absolutely, and what a great family.
Yes. I mean, his
Let
son...
your acts and deeds show who you are, not
Yeah.
how you dress.
Exactly, exactly. And I think he's going to do a great job. And in fact, we invited him on today to be to come on and take a little bit of a victory lap. So he'll come on the next show.
But you know where he is?
Yeah.
He's at Family Fun Day at Beaverbrook Farm,
And-
participating with the community.
Right, and he said to me, he said, I'd love to come on, but I don't want to blow off the that I committed to the Beaverbrook Farm. I'm wondering if Dave Martin is there. You know, I'll bet he isn't. I'll bet he isn't. But the bottom line is, it's a good day for Dracut that he's now a member of the Board of Selectmen and will go forward. There's a whole slew of people that are on there. I see Michael Bladis, former school committee man here in Dracut. He's out there. George
Young?
Justelarius, who?
Renee Young? Is that?
Oh, Renee Young is out there. Renee, anything you want to? Renee, that's Bobby Young. That's Renee's husband. Yeah, but if Renee wanted to come talk about what's coming up, because we're going to talk a little bit about. Okay, yeah, we're going to talk a little. She's on also. We're going to talk now about the school committee, right? So the school committee race was pretty decisive.
Yes. Yeah.
There was no opposition, so that was a pretty easy race to predict.
Two great candidates. Also.
Yeah, two very good candidates, and
I'm glad they were reelected.
yeah, and Rebecca Duda topped the ticket.
Wonderful.
You got to expect that. She's very well respected, having been a former school teacher, right?
Yep, right.
You knew her prior to her
Yes.
running. Did
Yep.
Kyle have her in school?
Yes, and she actually granted Kyle the 8th grade leadership award, and he was part of Project 351 for the
Oh.
state of Massachusetts as
Oh, see?
future leaders of the state.
Yep.
So I appreciate that. I was actually I went on that as a chaperone, and it was a very humbling experience working for the homeless. I actually got to meet Governor Patrick at the time. So it was a great experience. I got to meet Bill Belichick, a couple of the Patriots, Patriots cheerleaders. It's a great foundation, and I'm glad that Dracut is participating as part of that.
Right. So, Phil, have you heard any rumors about who will be the chairman of the school board?
I have not. My pick, if I had it,
Yeah.
would probably be Rebecca.
Yeah.
I like her. She's very much a stand-up person, No nonsense. I like that, and I think she would be a great chairman.
Yeah. Now, Rob Shepherd did a very good job. He was appointed to fill an
Absolutely.
unexpired and had to run again on his own, which, you know, it's a good testament to his likability that nobody ran against him. And he got a good vote, too. He was only a few hundred behind Rebecca, who I know Rebecca, even though she didn't have opposition, she wanted people to understand that she wanted the seat, and she wanted to make sure that they understood she wanted to continue, and as did Rob. They both campaigned.
Yep.
So, you know.
I think there were only, there were about 1,000 blanks or so.
Yeah.
Which still is a good testament that somebody would take the effort of in an uncontested race to mark down, yes, I want this person.
Yeah, who they want, exactly. So, yeah, they've got a lot to face coming up. And one of the biggest things they're gonna face is this dispute over chargebacks and what's gonna happen with that, because I think that dispute can potentially blow up into a really nasty thing, because I'm not saying that it happened, but it could appear that there has been some overcharging being done. Would you say that, Phil?
And specifically in the rubbish.
Right.
Yes, yeah, there has been.
Yeah. So the rubbish has been coming in at a much higher number than had been anticipated over the last few years, and they're saying that there's more rubbish from the schools. So much so that the schools, we had it on our show last week, the week before, relative to, you know, them going out to bid for their own stuff. And what was their bid that come in? Significantly lower.
Was, yeah, some 25% lower than.
Did you see that?
Yes.
That was like, they're charging like $500,000 a town is, and the bid came in under $200,000. That's a significant savings.
Yeah, so it's higher than I just said. Yeah, and that was all started when at a meeting, and I love how the administration in Dracut does this quite often. Well, if you don't believe me, then go check it out yourself.
And they did.
And they say it because typically nobody ever checks it out. But Stephen Stone said, okay, I'll check it out. And all of a sudden, he's getting numbers that are significantly less.
And then what happened? Do you remember what happened? Now they said that our current trash disposable company said we'd be breaching the contract if they go out on their own.
So Gordy, how could that be if, you know, the superintendent and the manager were in communications constantly over the last year or so about this particular issue? And I know the superintendent had asked the manager several times, is it all right?
3 times.
Okay, is it all right for us to go out to bid? And she said, yeah, go ahead, have at it.
So does that mean she didn't know what was in the contract? Because if she knew what was in the contract, she would say, you can go out and get a bid, but if you do get one, you can't execute it anyway because we're limited by what the contract is.
Right. So how is it a breach of contract? The school committee isn't breaching a contract. They have the right to go out for contract.
But I think it's tonnage. The tonnage rate.
Oh, the tonnage will be less
Less,
for the
right. So I think they
provider,
guaranteed X number of tonnage. I would assume that's why there would be a breach.
So what do you think those numbers are going to come in now that they're disputing this? Are they going to start going back and giving back the money that they took
And
over
put
the
the
years?
town in a worse financial situation than they're already in?
Well, I mean, if you're a school committee member, you have to be furious. I know that.
And how about, we brought this up in the show 2 weeks ago, what about snow and ice removal?
Right.
I'm sure that's being overcharged as well.
So if there's an intended overcharge here, that's a problem.
Absolutely.
Somebody has a problem, you know?
And the town manager may be retiring faster than we thought.
Oh, yeah, maybe. The bottom line here is I think that several school committee members, if not all of them, are quite upset about this. And I know that Renee Young and Allison Volpe were pretty disturbed by it. And hopefully this all gets resolved. This is one issue where I am right on board with them that this should not have been going on.
Yeah, I mean, there's another $500,000 or more that could have gone into the education of the kids.
Absolutely. So that's
We'll
going
follow
to be very
that.
interesting.
We'll keep everyone in the loop about that going forward.
So now let's get back to the Board of Selectmen, right, for a minute. So they have a meeting on Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Who will
And
be the chair of that committee?
They've got, that is very interesting, huh? By the way, I speculate that the chair of the school committee will be Renee Young. I think she's going to be the chairman. And that'll be interesting to see, because she's had it before, and rightfully so. She's good at it. So I don't have a problem with her being the chair. And
No, neither do I. I certainly would like to see Rebecca get some sort of leadership role, because I think she has been a leader.
yeah, absolutely.
On the school committee.
She should be chairman at some point, because she's very capable of doing it, and I think she will be.
Yeah.
So we get back to the Board of Selectmen for a minute, and we'll talk about their agenda for this week. Of course, the agenda's set by the previous chair, the chair who will be outgoing. Allison Janess obviously will not be the chair, and why would you make her the chair again when people just voted to get rid of, almost 2-1, to get rid of this regime, right? Overall, they voted against their regime. When they voted
I mean,
for Josh.
Allison was a big supporter of Dave Martin.
Right, exactly. So their agenda is, I guess there's going to be a citation for the retiring deputy chief, Alex Volgaris, by the way, who's a great guy, has served the town very admirably, and he's decided to retire, so he's going out after
Interesting, I didn't know that.
28 years, yeah. And they're going to give him a citation, which kind of confuses me. Why would that citation come before the reorganization? Shouldn't the first order of business be the reorganization?
Typically is, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess she wants one last photo shoot.
One last photograph, right? And I'm sure she's going to be going to some more of the ribbon cuttings just to be sure that she's there. But I'll bet the ribbon cuttings times will change now that, they made it convenient for them,
Right.
not convenient for the entire board to be able to go to those ribbon cuttings. So we'll see if that's another change that's made. But the reorganization, who do you think will be the chairman of that coming up? Who do you think?
I think Tony Archinsky has the best experience for it.
He certainly does. He's been the chair before.
He has been chair.
And I think Heather would do a great job as a chairperson.
Absolutely. Does
She may
I
be
suppose
the
to some
vice
degree,
chair.
does she have the time?
Right.
Because depending on how much ability you have to meet with town manager and do a lot of the stuff, it does take a lot of time, or I should say maybe it takes as much time as you are willing to dedicate to it.
I think that she will eventually be chairman somewhere down the line.
Well, Heather, I'm sure she will.
And people are going to start saying, "Oh, now they're going to have the 3 votes." Hello? What did we just go through for 20 years? Joe DeRocco controlled the 3 votes.
Right.
And that was the bottom line. And therefore, whatever the manager wanted, this is what got us into the deficit that we're in.
And I would say the difference there is that there's nobody controlling the 3 votes now.
Right.
These are all independent people, and they'll have their disagreements, they'll have their discussions, and then I think each of them will do what is best for Dracut.
Right. There's an interesting, a bunch of stuff coming up. There's a transfer of a license for the Don Tito's.
Okay.
All right, that's coming up. And there's some street acceptances. But there also is a whole list of reappointments. Did you see that?
I did.
Reappointments for varying boards and commissions.
Bob Lemire is asking Phil to run for state senate.
Bob, yeah, there you go. He should run for state senate. That would be good. And we have another one. We have another. Who's Lynn Marie? Can you read that?
She agreed with us, saying that he's just a regular guy and he shouldn't have to wear a suit, and kudos to him for not wearing a
Right.
suit.
Just be yourself.
Right.
Just be yourself, because that's what you're elected for, to be yourself. But there's some interesting reappointments here. People that were all supportive of, some of them were supportive of other candidates other than the winning candidate here. So I'd be interested to see what happens to appointments like Louise Tremblay on the Historical Commission. Louise always wants to be part of the in crowd. I wonder if she's going to shift now from going from Lucky to the new crowd. Dave Paquin has never hid anything. Has never hid that the fact that he's a big Joe DeRocco fan.
Well, there's there's a familial relationship there, I believe.
Is there?
Yeah,
I didn't know that. Oh, maybe I did and I just forgot it. Don Plummer is up for reappointment, and certainly Don should be appointed to this committee, as well as get Don Plummer on the Economic Development Committee.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I mean, he's the guy that should be driving this bus, right? And if the Board of Selectmen is wise and wants to, expand the tax base, where is the most logical place to expand the tax base? Through new economic development. You can't keep going back to the people and asking for more money.
No.
So the bottom line is, let's get Don on there.
Right, that's
He's
a great
familiar
idea.
with this stuff.
Yeah.
But there's a few other appointments here that I'm not even going to get into. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens on Tuesday with that board and where they go with some of these appointments.
I'm surprised that some of these people, they didn't try to put it in the last meeting.
Yeah,
To get those
before.
appointments done before the change.
Yeah, well, I would suspect that most of these appointments will go through uncontested.
No, I would think
But if I were there, I would try to say, I'm new, and I'd like to see if there's any other candidates that wants to go on, and then we'll have a chance to talk to these candidates.
Right,
and
these
go
are
from
all
there.
reappointments.
Reappointments.
Which-
So, I mean, it shouldn't be automatic. It shouldn't be, right? But in some cases, it most certainly is. So let's dive into the big elephant in the room right now, and that's going to be warrant articles, right? For our town meeting. We have a town meeting coming up on June 3rd. It's an
Yep.
important town meeting, and I will be saying to you, the requirement for quorum is what, 250 for this one?
250, that's
250.
correct.
Do you think they're going to be sweating the count? Because it's going to be hard to get 250 there. Do you think
It
so?
always is.
Especially this one, they need this because this is the budget day.
Right, and I think the budget number is close to $120 million.
Wow. Can you believe that? So we have the warrant. You can-
And just before you go into the
Yep.
warrant, I also have a problem with the people that are at the town meeting that are sitting at the tables, the volunteers. They're also counted, if I'm not mistaken, as being members in the meeting. But I'm not sure that they're actually in the meeting. I could be wrong, but I don't know if they leave the tables and come into the meeting. Or if they-
No, because they have to stay out there making sure that anybody who's coming in during the meeting, because it
Right, so
happens.
they're not really in the meeting then, voting, right? Like, so,
It's a good point.
you
It's a
know.
good point. Could that null and void the meeting if somebody challenges it?
I mean, I think if someone wanted to challenge it, they would have the
An
right to
issue.
do that. Yeah, there would be an issue there. Because they're not in there listening to what's being talked about. They're not in there actively voting.
And do you think it's being spiteful if you're a member of the community and just a taxpayer, and halfway through the meeting, you decide to call for a quorum count?
Right.
Should the quorum count still be 250?
Well, and I think you remember this from probably 6 or 7 years ago, we stood up
Yeah.
and we wanted a ballot vote because there was a lot of yes and no's. It was really close. And they did a ballot vote, and the votes only came out to like 199. I'm like, where are the other 51 people?
Right.
Did someone not vote?
Yeah. And that's a serious issue.
Yeah, but I
And I think that's why they don't want to do ballot votes.
But I wouldn't discount that there are people who didn't vote on a particular item because
Correct.
I really don't care.
Right.
One way or the other, I don't care. So I'm not going to spend my time
Right,
waiting
but
in a line, picking up a ballot, go to
But if they read out, we have yeses, 150 no's, or whatever, 120 and 120, and there's only 240. Now that raises
it raises the question, is
question.
there a quorum?
quorum. Right.
So we're going to let Phil go over this warrant because it's quite extensive.
I don't
Some
know.
of
Do you
it-
want to go over the whole thing?
Well,
I mean,
we can put it up
to
on
be,
the
To be
screen.
honest,
Yeah.
I've just started going over it myself.
Yeah.
A lot of it is boilerplate.
Can you bring this up a little bit more? Can you increase the fonts on that, Gordy, so people can actually read it? So some of this stuff is boilerplate stuff,
Yeah,
right? So when you start, the first few are all things that are normal.
This is what John Zimini brought up about 20 years ago, is actually
What's that?
voting to not take a stipend.
I did that during the time of, we had a downturn and we were in a deficit, and I said
Which
that
were no different now.
no different now, and that's $10,000 up plus $10,000 a year that we
For
should
each board there.
Yeah, we should put it back into the to reduce the deficit. I mean, that's the kind of stuff you really need to. All those pennies add up, and I would be one of those to support that.
Yeah,
during bad times.
certainly it says, hey, we're in this with you,
Right.
and
Can't give
we're
you a
we're
raise.
going to feel your pain too, and not take a stipend.
Yeah, and you know, and then they tried to tell me that I couldn't afterwards when they voted against it, and I said, well, I'm not going to accept mine, and then I was told, what do you mean you're not going to accept that? You have to accept it, and then you can donate it back. No, and I went down and called the United States government, you know, Department of Revenue down there, and they said, what kind of people do you have leading up there? Of course you can refuse it. Who's leading the charge here? So anyways, I did end up not getting paid the last few years of my term there, which was 3 years, I believe, 3 or 4 years. But they eventually voted to do it for a year. So it was good.
So we're looking. So I overshot the number a little bit. So our budget looks like it's going to be just shy of $100 million.
It's just right around 100 million.
Yeah.
Total expenditures and transfers, 100 million.
Yeah, and then from there, I mean, we also have stuff for stormwater and
Right.
you know, Chapter 90 money, which is for road repairs and stuff like that, repaving. I mean, very, very typical boilerplate stuff. Community preservation, they're looking at a budget of almost $800,000 for field debt payment. So that was field. That's probably with over at the high school, the
High school.
football field and
football
other
field, so.
things. Harmony Hall debt payment. So that was done a number of years ago, where they refurbished Harmony Hall as a meeting space. So I mean, it's kind of typical stuff.
And 2.2 million, that's the thing that stands out to me from free cash
Yeah.
to meet the budget.
They took 2 point.
Yep.
Yeah. 2 point.
Oh, in the operating budget, right?
Right.
So they further reduced essentially our free cash.
Right. So what
To-
is
to
the
balance it.
what is the total free cash now, Phil? It's going to be around 4 million.
It's 4 million or maybe even a little less. I'm not sure.
Okay, so that once that 4
So
million,
it's a significant issue.
and does that include the cannabis money, which you can't use for anything but impact?
No, not that I know of. I mean, I'm not sure how they segregate that money. I think it's all, they've been just throwing everything into the general fund.
That would be a question that I would want to ask. So I think some of the biggest articles that are going to be on this board, on this meeting is Article 13. Let's start with that. Or Article 5, we just went through the budget. Article
Yep.
13. The budget's obviously going to be a big issue, but I don't know how much people will question it, right? Do you have another article that's before that?
No. So Article 13 is community preservation, and that's essentially the expenditures for some of the stuff I just said.
Yeah.
Payment on a lot of the debt, and then they have $33,000 for administration expenses. So that could be surveyors and appraisals and stuff like that. So they need money at their disposal to actually have an appraisal done on a piece of property.
So this breakdown of the monies, this is what is in each alleged pot for the 4 or 5 different projects that they're looking at.
No,
So-
that they have already been taken. So this is all on debt payment. So
Okay.
these are projects that
It's
have already
committed.
that have been approved and actually worked on. So the field debt payment, as we're seeing there, I think that's for the football field.
Right.
Harmony Hall debt payment, so that was for the renovation of Harmony Hall. That was done I don't know, 10 to 13 years ago.
Harmony Hall's still on there, huh?
Well, that was $750,000
And
when
it's
they
down
did.
to 37.
So, well, the payment here is 37 for
Yeah.
this year. I'm not sure how long
Probably
the
a
bond was
20-year
taken out for.
20 or 30-year bond.
So
Right.
is that just the issue that, like that $400,000, how much was that field? $1 million?
$1 million, yeah.
So- Yeah, how much are they, so they can't,
I'm not sure how much
that
is
kind of
remaining.
money is what they're dedicating to not being spent. That has to stay in there.
Well, that's being, it looks like it's being spent for
those
the
different
debt,
things.
debt
Okay.
payment,
Okay,
essentially the mortgage.
okay, yeah. All right, so that's one slide. The next one is Article 14, which is community preservation improvements being done at Beaverbrook Farm.
It's almost $1 million.
Yep, and
Yeah.
that was for a new access road going into the property, because right now they have a shared access with the farmhouse.
Yeah.
That is actually on the property of the farmhouse, so they're looking at separating that new roadway down to a parking area, and then also, I think, leading to an accessible trail.
So they're going to take out the old driveway?
The old driveway remains. They'll have a new one further down. That will be
So that-
access for the public.
So the old driveway will now become the driveway for the
Private
house,
driveway,
for
that's
private
correct.
property.
And
Okay.
there's going to be 15 parking spaces,
Wow.
with 4 of them disabled spaces.
Is that proper for the zoning? Come on.
So,
zoning guru.
so typically, if you have 15 spaces, only one space would need to be accessible.
So they added 4,
But-
which is good.
Yeah,
More is better.
more is better for those who need the accessibility and they're trying to get outside and use the
Now,
trails.
do you think any of these so far are going to be voted down?
This Beaverbrook Farm, I don't think it'll be voted down, but I think there will be some opposition to it.
There'll be a lot of, I think there'll be debate about it.
Yeah, yeah, because I think what's, even though that's in a different pot, it's money that's already in a pot, that we're not spending, it doesn't take away from the operating budget. It just appears, I don't know, it just is not a good look to be spending all that money.
Right,
this
right.
point.
We're $3 million in debt and we're spending $1 million to.
Your average
create a-
taxpayer is just gonna say.
That's where the discussion starts.
Now, is Helen Drive part of this, this issue?
That I
is
think
that-
that might be further.
Is that ARPA?
That's down, yeah.
ARPA money? All right, so then the next article we have, so do you think the Beaverbrook Farm
I
will
think it will
pass?
pass. I think it will pass.
It will pass, huh? I think so, but it will be debated. Then Article 15 is the tennis and pickleball courts. Now, this is where I have an issue with this. And, you know, the issue is you're spending community preservation money to provide a tennis and pickleball court that's on a school complex that's going to be used for school issues, for school, school events. And when does the general public get a chance to use it? Is there anything in this article that's going to hold the school department's feet to the fire, allowing people to use it? Because we know the field that we spent over $1 million on is not being used for anything other than football and school events.
Right.
And that's a misuse of money.
Or for that matter, the restrooms that are at the lower track. I mean, those were supposed to be open for the general public too, but they're always locked.
Well,
Really?
Yeah.
Well, how much did those bathrooms
So
cost us?
that particular building cost $750,000.
For bathrooms that the general public paid for, that the general public can't use unless they're at an event. Are they open when there's a high school event?
I don't know. I really
Good
don't
question.
know. That's a very good question.
Which leads us into this whole bathroom stuff on all the parks. They've got them all closed, and then they put porta potties there.
yeah, and I hope we don't build, for God's sake, we don't build another bathroom.
No. No. Why are you providing bathrooms at the taxpayer's expense? You already
They
have a
can't use
bathroom.
them, which they can't use because they get the people go in and break the toilets and
That's a management issue.
yeah.
Somebody has to be there. There should be an attendant when there's general
And
population.
I can
going
speak to the tennis and pickleball courts from wearing my previous hat on the Recreation Commission. So how this works is you can take out you go to the Recreation Board and you ask for a permit. And then if your permit is allowed, and obviously there's a pecking order, the town gets, high school events take top precedence.
Right.
And then if someone wants to create a tennis recreation, like they have basketball, they have baseball, they have soccer, they have Pop Warner. So if someone creates a tennis or a pickleball recreation department, they can put in a permit request to get rent this tennis and pickleball court.
My issue is not that we're building this for the kids or for the high school. My issue is allowing the general population, the general public, to have access to that stuff.
And that's what the CPAs,
If you're not going to do that, then there has to be a stipulation in here somewhere that they're not going to all of a sudden just shut it down and give ridiculous hours to be used, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
if there's
public money.
Right. So if you're telling the public that they can use it, then it can't be. Oh, you can only use it between these specific hours.
And there should be
between 2 and 2:15.
It should be permitted. It should be permitted, and the permits should be published on the website, so that the general public can go to the website, look at when it's permitted, and when it'll be used, so when it's available.
And that kind of sounds logical, right?
Right.
Trevor says something here. Masco will be seeking bathrooms for their fields in the next few years for security issues. Less people needing to enter into the building. Yeah, the problem here is, Trevor, that when they open the bathrooms here that we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on at varying different parks, they're being vandalized, and the town is not opening them for use because of that. They're just shutting them down. It's not even a matter of cleaning up. But then they go out and they use taxpayer dollars to get porta potties. It just doesn't sound sensical to me,
right.
Especially in a down economy with a budget deficit. We need to, look into that, because you're going to say, oh, it's only a few $100s or a few $1,000s. Those few $1,000s put in a pot add up.
Right.
It adds up. Has a big impact. Don't be so small-minded. So, is there able to put some kind of stipulation on that field that requires them? I think the stipulation.
Well, so if it's being built, if it's being built at the school complex, then essentially the school committee or the schools themselves have care and custody of it, no matter what.
Yep.
So I don't think a stipulation could be put on it if it's being built on school grounds.
Wow. Well, then you got to vote no if the public's not going to get equal use or better. They're paying for it. So Article 23, this is quite a controversial issue, right? Article 23 is the tax incentive financing plan for J&J Heating and Air Conditioning, right? What do you say about that, Phil?
I think it's being brought late to the party.
Yeah. This is an issue for me personally. As a taxpayer, you're talking about an override for operating expenses to the tune of $3 million in the next year or so.
And you're giving the
And
company.
you're giving this guy, who's a friend of Joe DeRocco's, a chosen company, who's already in the ground, already been here for years, already making tons of money, and that's his right to do so. And
now you're going to give him a tax.
Now you're going to give him a
Right.
tax incentive, just because he happens to be friends with somebody that's outgoing. They voted for it, but interestingly enough, did you hear what the Finance Committee did?
Yes, they voted not to recommend it.
Right. So what kind of weight does the Finance Committee place on your vote, Phil? Gordy?
Well, if it has to do specifically with money, something financially related, I think I would take their recommendation over the selectmen's.
Right, right. I will be opposing that for obvious reasons, and I hope that everybody will. I hope we get a standing vote on that, to a stand up, 10 people to stand up to put that into a ballot, because that is just flies in the face of the taxpayers.
And that's one of my other huge problems with the town meeting, is because when we do the votes, if they say, if you're for this, vote yay, if you're against it, say no, the town manager's there. And it was really bad with Jim Duggan, because he was standing with his arms crossed,
Yeah.
going like this, and making sure that every person at the town hall stood up.
To
and
vote.
voted yes.
Vote yes.
Well,
And if they didn't, I'm sure they got an earful from him.
Joe DeRocco used to do the same thing too. Turn around and start glaring at everybody and see.
Yep. Yeah.
That's only, so, and as you know, most of the people, a majority of the people at the town meeting work for the town.
Right.
Let's just call
It
it
is.
what it is, what it is.
It is.
So my biggest issue with this is that I'm not necessarily against giving TIFs to local businesses that are already here established that want to improve their property. But it needs to be part of a program that's offered to everybody.
Correct.
So along Lakeview Ave in the Navy Yard, at the corner of Lakeview and Pleasant Street, there's a lot of businesses there that probably could use a nice facelift. Why not offer them a TIF saying, if you improve your businesses, give it a facelift, do some renovations, we'll give you a TIF. Essentially, if you invest in your property, we'll invest in you.
You see, that's something thinking outside of the box. But my issue's not. I'm not opposed to TIFs. I think they're a good thing and a good incentive to build your economic base in town. But you should be using it on properties or on proposed projects that are at a certain level. Maybe, let's say, 20 million or more. That they're investing 20 million new dollars into the town.
Walmart wants to come in
Right.
and build a Walmart supercenter or something like that.
Right, or a data center, or a
Right.
data retention center, something
Yep.
like that that's going to be $50 million or more. Certainly, what is it, the project, the healthcare project?
Circle Health.
Yeah, Circle Health, that was done.
That was, I'm sure they got a tip.
The Arbor,
Arbor.
the assisted living got a TIF.
My issue would be if that's new revenue coming in, it's not revenue you're currently gaining.
Right.
Right, so the
I agree
property that
with
we're
that.
talking about on J&J is property that was paying approximately $19,000 a year, as it was, right? So now they build a new building and it's 5 times the building that was on there before, or better, and they're only gonna be paying $22,000 a year on taxes. That's reducing, as far as I'm concerned, that's reducing the taxes unnecessarily.
Well, that's my problem with it too, is that on one side they give businesses a break, and now on the other hand they're going to be asking for an override,
That's why I'm opposed to this one. at
right?
this
So
time.
you can't. I mean, maybe if we were flowing with money and we had all this extra money, maybe you do this, but we're not in that situation.
So Phil, you're a selectman in this downtown.
Am I?
I just made you one. In a down economy when we have a deficit and the manager proposes a TIF, where she's saying to you, I want this TIF, and certain members of the board want this TIF for our friend, Mr. Ayotte, but at the same time, we got to whack the taxpayers for a $10 million override. What do you do?
I mean, that honestly is kind of a hard one for me. I'd say, like I said before, my first question would be to the manager, do we have a program that offers the same thing to all the businesses in town? If not, then why are we doing it specifically for one person?
It's not a problem for me, because I will tell you this, and Eddie Ayotte supported my candidacies when I ran before. Nice guy, but to me, at this point, there is a point that you're not buying my unending support for you to line your pockets while the taxpayers are getting whacked. I didn't vote for sales tax, a local sales tax. I voted against that, and people said to me, but that doesn't hurt the town, it gives more money to the, but I'm here to not only represent the town, I'm here to represent the taxpayers too.
Right, and the time you do that, I think, is if you're like I went to Sedona, that's all tourists.
Yeah.
Then you want to
Exactly.
make a meals tax, because most of that money is
Right.
coming from tourism.
Right, from people that doesn't.
I don't think a lot of people say, "Hey, I'm going to Dracut on my vacation."
Yeah, my vacation's in downtown Dracut, but I mean, there should be a hotel here.
Yeah, I think there should be. I think it could be supported.
Why didn't the
Economically.
town manager go after Lowell, UMass Lowell, to try to extend their their big project that they have, a $200-300 million project, maybe more. Why didn't they extend it over to us, into town? That area is your neighborhood.
Right, the Navy Yard, which is very close to UMass Lowell,
Yep.
right on the Lowell border. I think it's prime to try to drag some of that into the
dorm.
town as far as commercial work and
Put a dorm in Dracut. Do something. Put a new building in Dracut in that end of the town.
That's Murphy Farm. That's what Murphy Farm's going to be.
Well, that's not the right place for anything like that, so we know that, all right?
Well, 4 bedrooms, I think you're going to get, that's what you're going to
We
get.
got about 2 minutes left. Article 24 is the proper farm. Phil,
yes, the purchase of the proper farm. And
which,
I have an article out. It's on Inside Lowell, Phil Thibault for Dracut, in the Valley Patriot. All have published this article, and it's an improper proposal. So for some reason, the town wants to buy this. The selectmen have talked about it in executive session. However, there's an article now. It's gone in front of the finance committee, all still with the secret squirrel sort of talk at the Board of Selectmen that we want to purchase it. It's like, well, what there's been no debate on it.
have they violated the open meeting laws?
I
think they have.
absolutely think they have.
I think so too, and there's going to be more on
I
that
mean, it
one.
doesn't even say the purpose of why they want to purchase it.
And it's not CPA either, right? This is town.
No. They're looking for APA money, which is the federal government money that was given to us for COVID, which I don't think it's a use. You don't have a plan for it.
Right.
Right? So I think we're going to focus on that for the next show, as well as other things that come up over the next couple of weeks. And Helen Drive is not off of our radar. That's a project that we're spending $400,000 to fix a retaining wall that is on private property. That, to me, is that in this?
I believe it is later
So
on,
we're going to
but
bring
it's
that up
something
at the
that
next, we're running out of time. We're going to bring that up at the next time we meet, which will probably be 2 weeks from today, because we got to go back on a schedule. Will that put us in just before town meeting?
Yes.
I think it will.
Yeah.
So so we'll do a meeting 2 weeks from today. And we're told that we have to cut off a little bit early because the closing takes a little bit of time. So, folks, I'm sorry we couldn't get more into it, but we will next time. So, Gordy, want to take it away?
Everyone at Dracut, thanks for watching. We do appreciate it. As always, join in the conversation on our Facebook page. And if you want to watch us on YouTube later on, it's youtube.com and just type in What's Happening Dracut or dracuttv.org. And when it's Saturday and it's 11 a.m., it's What's Happening Dracut. Thanks, Dracut.
Goodbye, everybody.
What's Happening Dracut is sponsored by BGI Group, LLC,